As magical Flemington transforms into a springtime wonderland, the first of the majors gives us a guide to the first Tuesday in November. It's time for the Corfield Cup.
Gold Trip, 100 metres to go, just in front, Durston, he's coming at Gold Trip and got up, Durston.
In racing, we talk a lot about form. If your horse runs well, it just might be that the most famous cup in Australia is waiting for you at Flemington. Gold Trip knows that, second at Corfield last year, and then
Gold Trip is going to win the Lexus Melbourne Cup.
To win both races means striding into equine immortality. 11 have done it, among them Rising Fast and Gatley, Gurner's Lane, Let's Alone, Doremus, Ethereal, and where there was might, there was power.
Might and Power has held on to win the Melbourne Cup.
Yes, this is a major day, a red carpet charge towards the Cox Plate and Lexus Melbourne Cup. What a glorious time of year. For all of us, the road to the Melbourne Cup Carnival continues.
It is great to have your company once again on the road to the Melbourne Cup program, where we are counting down to the most famous race in Australia, the Lexus Melbourne Cup. And we are at the first of the majors with the $5 million Corfield Cup, traditionally the best guide to who will win the Melbourne Cup. And this year it is a cracker. We've got the Group 1 panel assembled to help find you the Corfield Cup winner, including three-time Melbourne Cup winning champion Glenn Boss. Bossy, it must be a hard race to win the Corfield Cup because it's about the only one you haven't won.
It's a hard race to watch for me because I didn't want to. But it's one of our majors. It's worth $5 million. And when you look at the list of winners over the years, it's littered with champions. So it is right up there with one of the best races we have in Australia.
Bossy's keen on one today, so make sure you stay tuned. At value in the Cup, I wonder if David Gatley's keen as well. Gator, it looks like it's one of the most open Corfield Cups we've seen in recent years.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a real elite race this year. Looking at the last couple of years, this year 7 or 8 of them genuine world-class equine athletes at the top, so plenty of depth.
Speaking of world-class, that's exactly what Britt Taylor is, and she joins us looking colourful as ever. I was worried you might have been in mourning after poor old Amelia's Jewel last week, but I'm glad to see you still happy and smiling.
Michael, we're all picking ourselves up here in WA. It was a few days down on the floor and seemed like she was a little bit the same, off the feed bin for a couple of days, but she's back and we're back.
There's no doubt about that, and who couldn't be happy when we've got a huge Corfield Cup? And what we need to do is find out about the spring dates ahead, because Corfield Cup, $5 million. We then bounce into the Cox Plate a week later, and then the world will be watching fabulous Flemington for the 4 days, which kicks off with Penfold's Victoria Derby Day on the 4th of November. Then there is the race that stops the nation, the Lexus Melbourne Cup, Kennedy Oaks Day, and what is fast becoming the biggest day of Cup Week, the Tab Champions Stakes Day. Gold Trip has been the talk of the town in the build-up to the Corfield Cup. Will he or won't he run? If he does, he is trying to become one of a select few who, as the stats tell us, wins both a Melbourne Cup and a Corfield Cup. He was just beaten in the Corfield Cup last year before winning the Melbourne Cup. Ethereal's done the double. Viewed came back and won a Corfield Cup, as did Dunedin after winning a Melbourne Cup, and Very Elegant won a Melbourne Cup after winning the Corfield Cup. There are 4 international trained runners in this year's Corfield Cup, and as you can see, they've had a very good recent record, and this year it could well be the internationals who are key again. The talk about Gold Trip has been absolutely enormous all week. Will he run? Won't he run? The situation at the moment is that Kira Muh's going to make a decision in the morning after they walk the track. It's all about whether the track is too firm or not. He looked magnificent at track work on Tuesday. Bossy, if he runs with 58.5 kilos, do you think he can win the Cup?
Yes, he can. He's airborne at the moment. 58.5 kilos won't hold this horse back. He is absolutely flying if they decide to run. You know, obviously they've got to get the track conditions because they're looking forward towards a Cox Plate and the Melbourne Cup. But in his current form, if he runs and they get the right conditions, he can win.
Do you think he will run?
I'm of the opinion they won't. I thought there was a red light when Huey Bowman was booked to him early in the week, and then Huey Bowman decided not to come. I know Huey Bowman would love to win a Caulfield Cup, and if he thinks he could win, he would be here.
Well, he was the form horse, wasn't he, Gator, out of that Turnbull win, which was absolutely jaw-dropping. The handicap's a different situation, and some of those that ran behind him in the Turnbull are going to be hard to beat in the Corfield Cup.
No, I agree, and that's the nature of handicap racing. I mean, the theory is everyone crosses the line together, but he was brilliant winning this gold, the Turnbull. Of course, he sat back. Fast run race suited him because he's an endurance athlete, right? So, and Storm's over the top of them. What you haven't seen is West Wind Blows has done a power of work the first half of that race, the first 1,000. He's there boxing on for second, so he gets a relative weights advantage on Gold Trip. Look, class-wise, he's well-weighted, Gold Trip, but he's still going to carry it 58.5, and not many have been able to do it. History's there to tell you that.
Could we see a form line coming down from Sydney? Montefilia, a horse who was unlucky in the Corfield Cup last year, Bossy.
Yeah, I just love the way she's trending. You know, she was first up, she got beaten 2 lengths behind Fangirl on the Winks, and then she's got subsequently beat only a couple of lengths in her lead-up runs. And this was visually unbelievable, but the clock just backed up what she did the last sort of 600 here. And Nash Warilla rode her this day, and he said, this took me back to some of the best days I've ever ridden. So she gets 54.5 kilos, she's got a good barrier, she's got Blake Shin. There's a lot to like the direction that she's going.
Gee, she was strong at the end there, wasn't she? And Huya Mail's got to be half a hope in the race as well, trained by Gay Waterhouse and also Adrian Bott. Brett, I want to ask you about the internationals. We've got 4 internationally trained runners, and you wouldn't be surprised if any of them won the Cup this year.
Oh, exactly. They add so much intrigue here. We've got 4 of them, as you mentioned. We saw in Stats Don't Lie what kind of record the internationals do have. And unlike West Wind Blows, who we've actually seen in that Turnbull, you've got Joseph O'Brien's pair of Akita Sushi and Valiant Girl, who we haven't seen. First run off the plane. We know they can often put in a huge run, but a really interesting runner is the Japanese horse, Breakup. And he worked really nicely during the week at Corfield. And they've rolled out the red carpet for this horse because they say that he can be a bit colty. He is an entire. He can be a bit anxious around horses. So they've actually custom made his stall, his race day tie-up, with rubber matting on the ground, on all of the walls, so to get the best sort of performance out of him.
Well, he's a very valuable horse, and if he can continue the tradition of Admire Racti, Murder Glass and win a Corfield Cup, it will have been well worth it. And, of course, Damien Lane, who has such a great association with the Japanese, rides him as well. Locally, he's now local anyway, a former international, Solcombe. It would be a great story, not just for Chris Waller, but also some Richmond football premiership players, because Jack Revolt is part of the ownership, also with Tom Lynch and also Jaden Short. They were out at track work on Tuesday. That's how keen they were about their hopes of winning a Corfield Cup.
Ran well this morning, you know. It was a great run out here, and I don't know what I'm looking for, but it looked good.
We're actually in discussion because Jaden thinks he's getting old now, and he's looking for a transition into a career after footy. So he had a chat to Chris Waller about whether he could make it as a jockey.
I reckon I could get to 55, but I don't know about getting on the back of a horse.
Good luck with that, Jaden. What do you think, Bossy? Any chance?
Jaden, no chance.
I'm with you. Don't worry about that. As we go to the break, there are some unbelievable musical entertainment at this year's Melbourne Cup Carnival. And if the dance party is your scene like David Gatley, then you cannot go past Palooza. It's the ultimate indoor-outdoor festival at a specially constructed indoor-outdoor weather dome with some of the best DJs around. Tickets are just $85. It's a little bit of everything on the one ticket. The Lexus Melbourne Cup Tour has been a party as well as it travels across Australia. Let's take a look at its recent trip to outback Queensland.
It's huge for the town and all the travellers that stop overnight that have heard about the Cup being here. It just shows you what the Melbourne Cup actually means, not just to Melbourne, but rural Australia.
We'll probably never make it to Melbourne to actually see the Melbourne Cup, but we've watched it every year all our lives.
Good to actually hold it, but never do it again.
Not very often you get the opportunity to have the Melbourne Cup, probably the biggest sporting event in Australia, and get the Cup to come here to our property. We've got to jump on that. That's pretty exciting.
When I started training, I started wondering, what would we do? We sort of copied what my father did, but at the time I didn't realise how much I'd probably soaked from him without knowing it. To me, it was just what you did every day. As I go along, different things happen, different situations, but when I say, right, what would my father have done? And next thing, it just clicked into place. It just blew me away to see the build-up for the Melbourne Cup, and I think it blows a lot of Europeans away when they go and they see the way the press build it up, the way the Melbourne people build it up, and then the amount of people at the track on the day is just phenomenal. We've nothing like that here.
Yeah, well done. Well done. Great stuff. Go on. I can watch that one. Go on, Ray.
Rick Ritchie has been fantastic. Got to have a guy who is keen and sees the adventure and the fun in it too. And when we were buying Vauban, Melbourne Cup was top of our mind.
Was it really?
Yeah. We said this guy could be a Melbourne Cup horse.
It's Vauban from Valiant King. In third place is Peking Opera, and inside the last 50 yards, Vauban is going to add the Ballyroan to Royal Ascot for Colin Keane. Willie Mullins, Valiant King, second.
That was a surprise to me now how easily he won that. He improved from Ascot, and I probably hadn't trained him to improve. We were just qualifying. I always like having favourites and having short price horses. You don't when you start off training, it's pressure, but I found it means you have a better chance of winning rather than running a 10-to-1 shot. Down the road here, a place called Ballydarton, this guy called George Watson left in about 1830 or 40 with a pack of hounds and found the Melbourne Hunt, who in turn built Flemington. He rode in the Melbourne Cup and he was the starter for the Melbourne Cup and he was on the committee of Flemington. So if we happen to win the Melbourne Cup, it'll be rounding off the circle. Like, he's the guy who found the Hunt, who started the races and started the race. So it'll be coming back home to where Carlo.
What an amazing story that would be if Vauban could win the Melbourne Cup with that background history. He's certainly going to be there on Cup Day, and you can be too. Tickets start from just $60 and you can purchase them from vrc.com.au or ticketmaster.com.au. He looks a pretty hard horse to beat. No wonder he's favourite, especially when he beat Valiant King in that vision we saw. And Valiant King, to be ridden by Jamie Carr, is going to be one of the hardest to beat in the Cup on Saturday.
Yeah, that's right, and evolving form lines is really important. I think one of the many aspects of trying to find a winner, but I think what's probably more salient with that horse is he's got to land here, other side of the world, run 2 miles at top speed, but his form's great. He thrashed a horse called Absurd, went to the Airborne, won, beat that horse 7 lengths, so the form's there.
We've got all of that to look forward to. We'll discuss him over the next couple of weeks. But let's go back to last week, which was a phenomenal weekend of racing. The Corfield Guineas and the huge Everest meeting.
With alligator blood now breathing down her neck and around the corner. But it is all alligator blood. A 7th Group 1 coming up, and alligator blood wins it by 2 lengths.
An alligator just said, look, see you later, alligator.
For the Ned's Corfield Guineas. The party moves up on the outside, but Griff had a kick in the locker. Is holding V8 for now. Griff wanders about. It's still in front though, and Griff wins a dramatic finish. Will we hear more? Started the big finish in the Tour. Ancito and Attrition, they hit the line. Attrition or Ancito, nearly a dead heat. Attrition is the winner. Delia Jewel, I don't think she wanted to be here today.
Vesta Brightside straight to third in front of my Oberon. A half the inside to Fangirl. Fangirl moved up. Fangirl takes the lead from Mr. Brightside. He's got a job to get there. Look at her go. Fangirl, a big win in the King Charles III. Beat Mr. Brightside. There's no Animo to worry about these days. And Fangirl notches her second group success. From the gates open there, off and racing. Needs room as Think About It takes the lead narrowly. Think About It from Cylinder. Private Eye. I Wish I Win. Think About It in front from I Wish I Win. Think About It. Think About It won the Everest. Beat I Wish I Win. It's Everest glory.
Oh, what a day's racing it was. And the Everest could be a key form line to the Champions Sprint. Obviously, I Wish I Win's now going to the paddock. But did you see the run of In Secret? Flashing home for 4th. We know she loves the straight. And it could be a battle of the girls with Imperatrice v In Secret.
This is going to be one hell of a race. It's going to be like the last day of our carnival is becoming the best day, and this is going to be add to it. Now more spice.
It was a huge run here, Gator.
Oh, yeah, she was excellent. In Secret in the Godolphin blue colours, steaming home down the outside. Mostly on-pace race outside of her, and sectionals home were absolutely elite. It was her first go at 1,200 metres this campaign, and that's really her wheelhouse. We saw that when she won the Newmarket, of course, this year.
Yeah, last year in the Champions 2,000 metre race, we saw Alligator Blood perform very well, and last week we saw him perform well as well, Britt.
Oh, this was just too good, wasn't it? This time last week I had that question mark. I think a lot of people did over 2,000 metres. Well, take that question mark right away because he answered that emphatically. He had to chase a really hot speed, so he did it in a strong run 2,000 metre race as well. I'm a real fan now.
Well, are you, Gator? Because he won the Champions Mile last year, so there was a question over 2,000. Are you a believer? Is he the horse to beat in the Cox Plate over 2,040?
Yeah, look, I had the same question marks going in as Britt. I won't back over it like she did, but it was a very strong win because he had to chase that hot speed. So he's ticked that box now. And as athletes mature, they can get stronger and better endurance anyway. So, yeah, he's going to be hard to beat, but there'll be plenty of opposition for him.
There were a number of favourites who got rolled last week, including Amelia's Jewel, who we've spoken about, and also Militarise in the Guineas. Yeah. What did you make of this race, Bossy?
Oh, he just got back and he was never given a chance to get into the race. It was controlled by the front by Ben Mellamon Griff, and anything from behind had no hope. I actually thought Militarise was huge here, and he will run very well in a Cox Plate.
So you still think he's a good chance at a Cox Plate?
Oh, my God. Yeah, get down to 49 kilos, a 3-year-old. I texted Chris Waller that night and said, can win the Cox Plate.
I thought you were going to say, I can get down to 49.
Once upon a time.
There was a bit of So You Think about that run, though, and you rode So You Think, of course, to win the Cox Plate as a 3-year-old.
Yeah, that's the flashing red light that I see from a 3-year-old going forward. That's the one you say, when you drop in weight, big, strong 3-year-old, he's multiple Group 1 winner already.
Yeah, all right. It'll be interesting in the build-up to the Cox Plate next week. The Toorak, Brett, all eyes were on Amelia's Jewel. Unfortunately, she ran below her best. The good news out of it is that they haven't been able to find any issues that I know she's eating up. What's the fallout from the West been?
Well, they were scratching their heads post-race because this is the worst performance we've seen her in her entire career. She's never really put in a below-par performance. And so it was a lot of question marks on her. Good news was, as you say, the vets went over it, couldn't find anything. She wasn't herself pre-race. She was a little bit up and about. It was not something we usually see from her. So I just think you just have to rule a line through the run and say it wasn't her, and hopefully she can bounce back.
And what about the win of attrition? We saw the vision there. Mitch Freeman, young trainer, and also Bo Mertens, the son of Pete Mertens. It was a very emotional win. And if you were going to win your first Group 1, what's the best way to celebrate? This is probably what David Gatley would do. Go out the next day and run the Melbourne Marathon. There he is with his kids. 3 hours 20, Gator. How does that go for a marathon?
No, it's very, very good. Puts him in the top 10%. Not quite as good as D Lane, from what I hear. Sub 3 hours is hard work.
2:55, Damien Lane.
Oh, wow. He's elite, isn't he?
He just looks like a little fella, but he can run very quickly.
Run, Forrest, run.
Clean-winded. Clean-winded.
Very clean-winded. All right, that was a great wrap-up of what was Corfield Guineas and Everest Day. We now need to put you on the spot. Glenn Boss, you told us you were keen on one. Who is it that you're riding in the Corfield Cup?
Yeah, I like Montefilia, 54.5 kilos, Blake Shin. I know she's going to defy history. There's only one horse come out of the Hill Stakes, and that was Red Craze in 1956, would you believe? That's come out of the Hill Stakes and won a Corfield Cup. So she's going to have to defy history, but I think she's good enough.
Was the weather good that day, Gator?
I was only 6, so...
Don't you give us your tip. We're going to come back with that. I want to know who you like, Brett.
Look, I'm sticking with the Japanese. We're hoping that Breakup can do what Mairakti and Murder Glass was able to do and win this week's Corfield Cup.
All right, I love it. We will see you both next week. Look forward to that. And, of course, we're going to see Bossy, Britt and the whole team at Flemington for Cup Week because Network 10's coverage, live and exclusive, starts on November 4. Michelle Payne, Eddie Maguire will be joining the team as well. It is going to be a fun-filled 4 days. As we go to the break, don't you go anywhere. Get your pens out because David Gatley is confident he's got all the winners coming up next. Time to make you some money now. Gamble responsibly as always. But David Gatley is keen to find you the winners of the Corfield Cup and the features moving forward. The Corfield Cup, Gator, it is such an open race. Have a look at this, $6.50 the field. Gold Trip holds favouritism. I wonder if confirmation of his start would mean that he will firm tomorrow morning.
Look, I think he will if he runs. I think he'd be popular given the strength of his win last start. But we touched on it in the opener. There's 8 horses on that graphic there, and you can make a really strong case for all of them. Some of the form lines, world class. So we touched on it. Look, it's probably the strongest rendition I can remember for probably a decade.
Yeah, if you like a runner in the Corfield Cup, you're going to get good value tomorrow. Is there one at a longer price that could be a nice value play?
Look, I don't think it's that sort of race this year, to be honest. I think the winner's going to, because the form's sort of separated in one aspect, the sort of elite form and then it's sort of second level form. We saw a roughie win it last year, beat Gold Trip, but it was a lower ratings edition of the race, I think.
So for the viewers, give us your top 3 in the Cup.
Yeah, sure. I'm with West Wind Blows. I think his run in the Turnbull's outstanding on that fast speed. He'll get to 2,400 safe for one run this time. Might be the key. Without a Fight's Flying, he was terrific first up. Salcombe's my 3rd top rater. So a race I want to play in and have some exotics fun.
And there's going to be a lot of form come out of it, as there is always. And it could be form headed towards the Cox Plate, as it was last year for Gold Trip, who ran in the 3 majors. Could he do it again? His win was phenomenal in the Turnbull as far as a Cox Plate form guide goes. But Romantic Warrior, the Hong Kong horse, is still favourite, who finished behind Gold Trip in that race.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll get a guide on that form, of course, on Saturday. Win, lose or draw with West Wind Blows, won't we? And other runners out of that race, Francesco Guardi and co as well. Alligator Blood, we touched on him earlier as well. He's ticked the 2,000 metre box well and truly. Fangirl's an interesting runner. Will she run the trip? She was dynamite the other day. And these 3-year-olds, as Bossy referenced, add a whole new dimension to the race.
If you were to back one horse right now, who would it be in the Cox Plate?
Look, I've been tipping Romantic Warrior a long way out. I don't think I want to drop off yet. I think he'd be much better for that run in the Turnbull.
Of course, Tuesday we'll get to see the barrier draw, the final field for the Cox Plate, and we'll dissect that race next week on the road to the Melbourne Cup Carnival. One of the most fascinating races we touched on a little earlier in the program could be the Champions Sprint on final day. This is where we're going to get to see Imperatriz, who has been phenomenal in her Melbourne spring starts, take on the likes of In Secret, Star Patrol, possibly Asfura as well.
Yeah, look, it is a fascinating race, and the girls dominate it, don't they, market-wise there with Imperatriz and In Secret. And Imperatriz, what she's been able to do this prep, just ridden a little bit colder, I think really suits her. And by that, I mean further back in her races, where she can just be safe for one run. She actually won first up, broke a track record, then broke her own track record second up. We've already mentioned In Secret what she's been able to do up the Flemington Straight, beating I Wish I Win in a Group 1 Newmarket. So they're the 2 that stand out, and the market tells you that.
Would that straight track experience give her some advantage over Imperatriz, do you think?
I think it's no negative. It's not necessarily a positive over one athlete or the other, but it's definitely no negative having been exposed to it. Yep.
At this point in time, could you see any horse outside of those top 2 winning the sprint?
Look, Asfura's taken a step up. I think she has to come up another length or 2 again, though, assuming she runs there. And again, the 3-year-old, the horse like Cylinder, who ran so well in the Everest, he creates interest as well.
David, it's been so good sharing at the desk with you once again on the road to the Melbourne Cup Carnival. We'll see you next week, where you'll provide us with a Cox Plate winner.
I know who David is, but I'm with you for the rest of it.
Well, I can't call you Gator after you potted Alligator Blood last week anyway. David Gatley will be back next week, as will Glenn Boss and Britt Tardy. I hope you have enjoyed this edition of On the Road to the Melbourne Cup Carnival. Enjoy Corfield Cup Day. We'll see you next week.